One of the most common questions I get is how to run fast over the long distance. Today, I'm here to talk to you about how to run fast over 5 kilometers so that you can run fast over the longer distances. I'm Lindsay Parry from CoachParry.com. He has shown it to take you through the first step.
All right, so we want to get towards a faster 5K. The first thing that we really need to make sure of is that you're balancing your load of running correctly. Many people think that, 5K, I must be gunning it. We still want to have the correct balance within our training. So 80% endurance, long, slow sort of runs, and 20% of the higher intensity sort of work. 5K is essentially still an endurance event that does require some stamina and some speed, of course, but we still need to make sure that we're balancing that load correctly, or that sort of volume of training in the correct sort of way. So make sure that you're doing 80% of your training still long, slow, easy endurance building sort of work, and the 20% of that training where you're touching in on the higher intensity or speed work, and Marcus is going to dive into that in a little bit more detail for you.
Now that Sean has explained about balancing the load, let's look at that 20%, and that is the high intensity speed work. So if we're preparing for a 5K, we divide that into a 12-week block. So ideally 3 blocks of 4 weeks is what we want to do. So the first one, we'll be doing 3 weeks of 2-minute heel repeats. Heel repeats are a great way to build speed and to build strength. Why speed and strength? One, you don't want to be doing heel repeats on a gradient that's too steep, and that's why you still work speed into the equation. So your limit of injury, or you're limiting your risk of injury. That's a great one. The 4th week is always there for recovery. The second block, that'll be our 1K repeat block. So if we're prepping for a 5K, we can work on week 1, 4 1K repeats, week 2, 5 1K repeats, and week 3, 6 1K repeats. Let's say, for argument's sake, your 5K goal time is 20 minutes. So you'll be working off 4 minutes per kilometer. So for your 1K repeats, you want to be working about 8 to 12 seconds per kilometer faster for those reps. Don't forget that you'll be taking a 60 to 90 second rest interval after each 1K repeat. So week 1 would be 4, week 2 would be 5, and week 3 would be 6. So there's that overreaching, not just in pace, but also in distance. 4th week, once again, for recovery. In the last block, we're going to be doing some 400 meter repeats. 400 meters are great sessions. Not just do they help develop speed, but they also help develop good running form. In the first week, we'll be working on 10 to 15 400s. 15 sounds like a massive number, but in theory, and in all practicality, it's only 6 kilometers. So week 1 will be 15, week 2 will be 10, week 3 will be 5, and then race week, that's when we fine tune it a bit and we drop from 400 to 200 meters. 5 to 10 times 200 meters is ideal for a race week speed development session, and that's what you want to be focusing on, being fit and being fresh. Let's also have a look at the pacing for those 400s. So we're still working off that 20-minute 5K. So ideally we want to work off of 86 to a 90 second time per 400 meter rep. Same as with the 1K repeats, we want to be working off a 60 to a 90 second rest interval after each 400. Preferably stick to the 60, but more importantly, it's all about hitting the paces when we do these intervals. So if you struggle to hit those paces, rather increase your rest duration so that you keep on hitting the suggested pacing brackets.
Lindsay's going to touch on pacing a little bit later as well, and essentially how people start to fatigue and get really tired in the last 2 kilometers. And part of the reason for that is that you just haven't built this endurance, this really strong base. And that is why we are really focusing on the 80-20 principles. Of course, yes, the 5K feels shorter if you're used to running marathons, so you feel like you just want to focus on speed. But that endurance base is absolutely pivotal. We have to be ensuring that you're training in the correct zone in order to build that aerobic capacity, and that is what's going to sustain you for the 5Ks. The top end speed stuff, of course, is absolutely vital to get that speed and stamina within the 5K, but we have to have the base first in order to really focus or hone in on that the faster or the top end sort of work. And so within this endurance or this easy zone, within your easy and long runs, you really want to be focusing on keeping those runs much slower at a much easier kind of pace, and in almost what we term as zone 2. So the intensity of your runs are done very, very easy and much slower than what your top end or your other faster runs are done at.
So Sean has spoken about balancing the load, the 80%, 20% volume. Marcus has spoken a little bit more specific around the 20% aspect and the speed training. Another key area that we need to focus on to improve that 5K time is strength training. Now, what do we mean by strength training? Strength training, in essence, I want to actually mention more resistance training. So while we talk strength and we do need to gain some muscle mass, it is really about doing a lot of resistance work, using resistance bands. Body weight work also works very well to allow your body to prepare your body to be able to handle the intensity that's going to come in some of those speed sessions, the duration of runs that'll come in the longer runs that you are still doing. So you're just really preparing your body to be able to handle the pounding that it's going to take and the kind of intensity that it's going to take, so that you aren't risking any potential injuries, and you'll tend to then find it does improve your running performance and actually does help with recovery a little bit as well, because your body is able to handle that. So how much strength training is always a question we get, and it is going to be quite dependent on the individual, what your strength training background is. Again, it is absolutely key. If you are new to strength training, you need to start off slow, lay a good foundation, as it would be with running. So how much strength training do we want to do, or how often? We ideally would like to see 3 strength sessions a week. That being said, not everyone has all the time. So I would like to see some strength training. So we'll often joke 3 sessions are better than doing 2 sessions. In the ideal world, 2 is better than 1, and doing 1 session is better than doing absolutely no strength at all. So if you are limited to time, get at least 1 session in the week. If you can do 2, you'll probably be better off doing 2 sessions, and then obviously in the ideal world, doing a 3rd session would be great. If you are looking for a strength training plan, we have put together a strength plan for you, free of charge. You can just click on the link on screen now.
The next thing you want to do when training to run a faster 5K is to include running drills in your training regime. Why it is important to do running drills. First up, running drills needs to be included as part of your warm-up routines before you do high intensity workouts. Running drills are great. Not just do they activate the necessary muscle groups to help you fire when you do your quality workouts, but they also increase your running economy, your muscle effectiveness, and then also help increase your cadence and also limit ground contact time for when you do those hard sessions. All of which makes you run faster. So when you do running drills, you want to start off with the first one. Stand up straight, stand tall as we like to call it in the industry. Walk on your heels. So arms up, next to your side, walking on your heels. Do that for at least 10 to 15 meters. Do that for a few laps, maybe 2 to 3, before you start doing your next drill. Your next drill is to walk once again with your arms at your side, and to start on your heel, roll through to the front to the ball of your foot. When you get to the ball of your foot, propel yourself upwards. So you want to do that again, 10 to 15 meters. You want to do that for about 2 of those laps. The third drill you want to be focusing on is the same movement or the same idea as the second drill, and that would be the same motion by rolling through from your heel all the way to the ball of your foot. And when you get to the ball of your foot is to do a skip upwards. Once again, don't forget to also be working with your arms which is synchronized, or should be synchronized with your feet. The next running drill is high knees. So following the same running action with your arms moving really fast, you want to bring your knees up as high as possible. That is followed by the reverse of that. So when you run, hold your hands behind your back, and you want to be kicking up with your heels, almost touching your hands as you run. Following on from those two, you want to be doing one up in front at the one high knee in the front, followed up with your high heel at the back, and alternate that between your legs. Once again, 10 to 15 meters before you turn around, and you follow the same for that. To finish off your running drills, You want to be doing 4 80 to 100 meter run-throughs or strides, as we call them. That basically means start easy, finish strong. Rest 20 to 30 seconds before you start your next one. You want to be doing 4 of those, and that's the warm-up.
Now that you've heard all about how to prepare for race day, one of the places where so many runners get it wrong is by pacing the run incorrectly. So 5K feels like such a short distance that you think you can just run it absolutely as fast as you can. But there's so many times where I analyze athletes' races, and kilometer 4 and 5 are just not as good as they could be because they've got it all wrong from the start. You've done a couple of test runs, you've done a couple of key sessions, so by now you've actually got a fairly good idea of what you're capable of race day. The first kilometer is always going to be a fraction too fast because you're going to get sucked out with the crowd. But the earlier you can rein that in, the less of an impact it is going to have on you on the end. So know what your average pace needs to be for the 5K time trial, and for the first 2 to 3 kilometers, have the discipline to stay in and around that number. If you've got more in the tank and you can claw a few seconds more in the final 2 kilometers, then you have run a great 5 kilometer time trial. But all too often what I see is gradually slowing down from the first kilometer with a really good finish over the last 400 meters as people then can see the finish line. But the most important thing here, know what you're capable of, plan how you are going to get to that number. You've done the training, you've prepared well, good luck for your race. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe so that you don't miss out on videos that we put out in the future. We'd also love to hear what your 5K PB is, so pop that in the comments below the video.